Morning, Norman.
Morning, Chris. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. About yourself?
Good, good. You heard any interesting news this morning?
Yeah, that Biden is going to quit, resign, not just quit the election, but actually
Resign.
resign. Yes,
Wow.
and turn it over to Kamala.
Kamala.
Yes,
I think
her.
it's Yeah,
That's it. Her.
that one
Exactly.
that one that no one wants.
Somebody might.
You know, she dropped out of the primaries when she was running, when she was in the primaries, against Joe.
Before the first vote was cast.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Before her home state, before the California primary, because she knew that she was going to get crushed in her home state. And so she hasn't won the first delegate at all. And now if he resigns like it's being reported that he's going to, then she becomes the first female president.
And first black female president.
Yeah. Right. Well, you got to include both of those, right?
Right. Well, they would.
I know
they
would. Absolutely
That's
they
right.
would. That's right. This identity politics stuff is just maddening. Everything's got to be the first this and the first that. It's a historical moment.
Everything's a historical moment because time keeps moving. Isn't that?
That's true. Hey, Chris, this is a historical moment. It's never happened before.
That's right. Ever had that feeling of vujade? The feeling that
deja vu?
No, vujade. The feeling like nothing like this has ever happened to you before.
Yeah, all the time.
That's a George Carlin.
That's funny. Okay, so him dropping out of the race, I think, is a foregone conclusion. I mean, there's no way after
unless your goal is to lose.
I mean, that's a foregone conclusion too. But there's no way that you have top Democrats and prominent mainstream media. Did you see Time magazine?
Yes.
Did you see what was it, Newsweek? Like 2 or 3 days in a row talking about he's got to step down, he's got to resign, and you don't come back from that, and then in 2 weeks from now when he's decided that he's not going to resign, then they just flip and start the rah for Biden and say, oh, he's perfectly fine, go vote for Biden. How do you come back from that? There's no way.
The systemic dishonesty
absolutely
across the board is pathetic.
Now, it wouldn't surprise me that they do actually think that our attention span is that small that they could do that in a couple of weeks and pretend that none of this ever happened. Right?
Well, I mean, you can't put that past them.
Can't put that past them.
In the past, they've definitely tried to recover from things that seemed unrecoverable before.
That's a fact. But, I didn't think that he would resign the office. Because we've got, 4 months till the election?
Yep.
So he would be in office for another 6 months?
Roughly.
And so, my thinking was that, okay, they get him to withdraw from the race, figure out some way to replace him with someone other than Kamala, because Kamala would lose worse than he would. I mean, if he stays in, he's going to lose, and that's why they're panicking and wanting him out. And I think the general consensus is, and it's probably correct, that if they replace him with Kamala, which how do you not replace him?
I don't think you can get around her. I think that's
why they kept him in as long as they have, I think.
Well, I mean, look what she did as the border zone. I mean, absolutely nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
Right. Nightmare. Total nightmare.
Of course, they never intended to do anything about the border, but she didn't even go through the
of even going to the ring,
even appearing to be doing something about it at all. I mean, there was no even actions to support anything.
See, and that's the thing. Is it getting more obvious to the low information voters how bad it actually is?
I think it is now. I think that's the crux they can't get over this time, is the fact that everybody now knows
Right,
that
right.
he's senile.
Right. There's always, and it's unfortunately it's the majority of the voting population that are low information voters. They're not voting based on, research and information. Like, we
Yeah, we
we
dig into the
right.
issues and look at stuff and
We research
right,
candidates,
right,
right?
right.
Which candidate has the policy proposals and the character and the views that most align with what I'm looking for, right? We dig into them, right?
Right.
The majority of the voting population doesn't.
No.
And so if there's a D next to their name, they click that checkbox. Or on the other side, if there's an R next to their name, they click that checkbox. And that's all they know.
Right.
But now, after
Well,
that debate,
they might know other stuff from Yahoo News or
right, all positive spin stuff that
Yeah.
is total fabrication.
Yeah. We
But
we as a society are way too tolerant of dishonesty now.
way.
It's just been going
Very
for
much
a
so.
long time.
Very much so. That was one of the things. I lived in India for a period of time, and I think that's something that most people in Western culture don't understand, is that cultures are different.
Yes.
And in Western culture, that is, up until fairly recently anyway, maybe the past, 20 years, has been predominantly influenced by biblical morality, right? That's
Right.
That's the foundation of Western culture.
Right. Yes.
Well, when you go to other countries that don't have that foundation of biblical morality, things are really different.
Yes.
And things like haggling. That's why, like car dealerships and things here, when people that are from these other countries that have a system of haggling like they do in like Islamic countries and Hindu and really, to some degree Jewish, but Jews have some scruples in their haggling that the other cultures don't.
Right.
But they come over here and then they go to the department store, with
Yes.
the prices marked on the shelf,
They want to argue.
they want to haggle with,
Right.
and you have to tell them, look, that's not how it works here. You pay the price that's on the tag, right?
Right.
And so, but the way that's kind of built into the system, that it's understood that the price being represented is dishonest, that the process of the haggling is dishonest, that there's inherent dishonesty in all of these things going on. There is this cultural difference. Well, in the past 20 years, with the rise of multiculturalism and honoring these other cultures that don't have that foundation of biblical morality, dishonesty and the inherent element of dishonesty in everything, especially marketing. And I think that's really what's to blame a lot, is marketing and dishonest marketing, and it's beginning to become part of our culture more and more so all the time. And what do we do other than converting people back to biblical morality? What can we do to eliminate that accepted, and I like the way that you term that, accepted dishonesty. We're too tolerant of accepting dishonest practices. In this culture, we should be saying, no, you're not going to deal with me that way.
Especially for the people that we put, quote, in charge.
Right. That's right.
The fact that we tolerate such dishonesty from, quote, our leaders, unquote, is a lot of where our problems start.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And so that's one of the reasons that, or I guess it's the reason, that I just utterly despise the antiquated media, or I've heard some refer to it as the lamestream media, or the old media. Now you got new media. I think that's one of the reasons Trump got elected to begin with, is because of the rising prominence
alternate
of the
alternate sources
Right.
of information.
what's called
Right.
new media, where people are watching podcasts and going to websites and reading sources that aren't controlled by the big media corporations that are manipulating the narrative with just an iron fist.
Yeah. Yes. And the thing is you know, the whole Biden issue goes back to them
Right.
because it's not like this has been a secret.
Right.
I mean, they've been arguing with the new media about the fact that he's fine for literally years. And what's happened now is it's become obvious that he's not fine,
That's
so
right.
much so that there are now rumors of him resigning.
That's right.
Not just quitting the race, but
That's right.
absolutely resigning. And
Well, actually, he has stayed in office longer than I thought he would. You know,
yes,
when he got elected in 2020, supposedly, when he got appointed, I think would be the better way to say it. In 2020, I thought, okay, they'll leave him in office for maybe a year, possibly 2 years, and then they'll replace him. Well, I was wrong about that apparently, but now, there's no way they're going to run him for the next election. They're going to he I'm estimating in the next 3 to 5 days, it's going to come out. This is when is the Democrat convention?
convention. I don't remember. It's coming up
I
next.
think it's the 14th of this month, isn't it?
I'm not sure. Find out. 19th, August 19th to the 22nd.
August 19th. So it is next month. Okay. Yeah. August 19th to 22nd, 2024. So, I'm still going to say within the next 5 days. I think at the most 2 weeks, because they've got to have time before the convention to, push who they want.
Right, right.
Not only that, they got to, I don't see how they get around making Kamala the nominee, because
Well, they don't want to. But how do you ethically, if you have any ethics, how do you ethically
don't.
get
That's the
around her?
point.
That's the whole thing. So they're trying to figure out how not to do the next right thing.
Right.
They're trying to dump on her.
Now,
Dump on her or dump her.
one theory I did hear, and I think maybe it was Tim Pool that had put this out. He said that they could go to Kamala, and not that we're trying to feed them ideas, but that they could go to Kamala and say, "We're going to get Joe to resign. You will get to be the president for the remainder of his term, but you have to say when you assume office that you are not running for reelection. You're going to serve out his term, and then whoever wins the election, come in. Otherwise, we're going to figure out a way to get rid of both of you."
Well, the thing about the systemic dishonesty is the fact that, think about this. Biden is the way he is.
Right.
It's been known for a long time, and they were willing to stick with him as long as this remained a secret for the next 4 years.
That's right.
Or until he died.
That's right.
And the fact that they were willing to participate in doing this is beyond the pale.
Well,
I mean,
what do you think about the reports or the rumor or what have you that Jill Biden is actually the one behind keeping him in office, and she's basically been the president for the past
like
3 years.
Woodrow Wilson's wife.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That that it's really her. They're going to Joe and saying, Joe, you need to resign. You need to step down for the good of the country. And it's Jill that is saying absolutely not. Yeah. And he does whatever she tells him.
Right. And you know what I think? I don't think they're going to Joe. I think they're going to Jill.
Oh, well, sure.
I think that's
Right.
are you
And she's saying no way.
right.
Because
Well,
now
she was saying no way, but now there's a lot of force being pushed
right.
upon them, which is a shame it's been forced on them.
Yeah.
They were willing to voluntarily go through with the fiasco
Right.
of having him continue in his position, knowing full well how incapable he truly is.
Well,
I mean, think about a positive spin. Oh, he's good from 10 to 4.
Yeah, right.
You
That's
know, I
right.
mean,
They put that out like it's supposed to be, comforting
Comforting.
or positive or good news.
Well,
10 to 4, what's the time difference between here to Russia?
I-
10 and a half hours?
I'm not sure, but I know because they care so much about people, they would cater all of their decisions to where Joe would be able to interact with them and participate during those specific hours. I'm sure that they would be graceful enough to do that for him.
Right. Absolutely. They would never dream of doing anything to take advantage of Joe's incapacity outside of those hours from 10 a.m. to 4
Of
p.m.
course not. No.
Eastern Standard Time. Let's see. Moscow is 7 hours behind. No, Moscow is 7 hours ahead of Washington, D.C. So when it is, say, 12 p.m., say at the peak of Biden's efficiency, which, how much is that actually saying, right? At the peak of Biden's efficiency at 12:15 p.m., it's 7 p.m. in Moscow. So at 7 p.m. in Moscow, it's 12 p.m. when Joe is, even
It is peak.
No, 12. I think that means 12 a.m. Right? 7 p.m. in Moscow would be 12 a.m. here, right?
Well, it'll be right at noon, right? If they're 7 hours ahead of us, then if it's 12 o'clock and they're at 7 p.m., then wouldn't it be
Oh, okay, yeah,
noon here?
that's right, yeah. So if let's say Moscow, if Moscow acts at say what 2 p.m., what time would it be in D.C.?
That's before Joe's up.
Right.
They would not do anything at that point in time out of courtesy of Joe.
Oh, it'd be 7 a.m. in D.C.
See, that's nap time. That's still sleepy time. I mean, he'll wake up, get his coffee, watch Morning Joe in the morning, while he collects whatever foggy thoughts he has and watches Morning Joe and drinks his Joe and
Right. And that they wouldn't do that to Joe, right? They wouldn't.
No, they're not. They are not geared towards self-interest. They are thinking just like we are about what's best for everybody.
Right. Exactly. That's right. So, certainly, that should be comforting to us that Joe is on the ball, sharp as a tack, as a tack that's been stepped on 50,000 times, but sharp as a tack from 10 a.m. all the way to 4 p.m., Chris.
That's awesome.
All the way to 4 p.m.
That's awesome.
I mean, how many people are actually still sharp at 4 p.m.? Come on. I mean, that's endurance right there.
Well, I mean, yeah. Certainly I'm not. No, that's way past my
Yeah.
my prime. Yeah.
So,
Matter of fact, I'm no good after 3. That's the reason why we do all our recording.
you make it to 3?
Yeah, on a good day. On
Man,
a good day.
I tell you what, and I thought I was doing good making it till 2.
Oh man, well, I wouldn't knock yourself too bad for that. I mean, 2's 2, so it's,
that's right. I mean, 2's not terrible.
Right.
So
right. That's 9. That's 9 o'clock.
But it's nowhere close to Joe 4 p.m.
Right, but in Moscow time that's 9. So 2 your time is 9 their time.
Right. So I could still deal with whatever they
That's right.
came out with, right?
Right. And I'm sure that they wait to let us know any decisions that they make until Biden is at his peak to process any information they want to share with him. So when China was wiring money to Joe and Hunter,
Yeah.
I wonder what time of the day it was those transactions were going through.
That's a great question, Chris. Was it between 10 and 4?
I don't know. Since it was mostly going to Hunter, I think that they don't have to hold as rigid a time frame as they do in dealing with with Biden.
We would hope not.
But if we don't get a conservative in the presidency this fall, that's going to be really
Yeah.
bad.
That's
Things will truly be destroyed.
if
Another
it's kind of irrelevant to speculate Biden being the one that Trump's running against, right? It's going to be Trump against
X.
maybe Kamala. There's some others. Whitmer is one of them, right? She's the what Michigan governor.
Newsom's been names thrown out there.
But really, I mean, is Newsom really as popular as people?
I don't. All you have to do to put Newsom is to show the video of him at the party, at the restaurant, and everybody else was told to wear masks and stay home, and he's at a party, nobody's masked. I mean, the hypocrisy of that is you can't get around.
That's right. Yeah. So, and not only that, but he has run California into the ground. I mean, just totally.
But the bad thing is it's intentional. That's the bad thing.
That's right.
All of this that's going on is not by chance. Every bit of this has been engineered, which is why this election is so important, because the damage has to be stopped to turn it around.
But that's the question. Okay, so Newsom, could he really beat Trump? I mean, I know they say that he would be a challenge for Trump, but I don't see it. I mean, you saw the DeSantis Newsom debate, right? When during the primary and DeSantis debate.
Actually, I didn't.
DeSantis just wrecked him.
Yeah.
I mean, wrecked him.
I knew what was going to happen. I wasn't going to waste my.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, DeSantis was really good.
Yes.
If it wasn't going to be Trump, which as soon as Trump said that he was running again, that was pretty much the end of the primary. There shouldn't have even been a primary after that. Because of course he was going to win the primary. How many people that voted for Trump in 2020 know that he got robbed of his legitimate second term?
A lot of people.
A lot of people.
So
there was no way anybody was going to be able to win the primary against Trump, right? It just wasn't going to happen. So I think it was a mistake, because it probably hurt DeSantis, and which is a shame, because he's really
a good guy.
He's really
a good guy. He's done a very good job in Florida, and he's young enough. I hope he continues to push forward.
I mean,
to the presidency. He would be a great president.
If somehow they were able to, and Trump's pretty good at this. He did it after the 2016 primary, where he was brutal. I mean, he made the ones go away permanently that needed to go away permanently, like little Jimmy. So I mean, he did a good job doing that, but then he did a good job mending relations with the others. That things got pretty nasty during that primary.
Yes.
I mean, that's just the nature of
the nature of politics.
Right.
Well, that's the nature of politics. You had, if you go back and look historically, during the early years of our country, there was some really nasty stuff being thrown around with Jefferson and
Right. But but he did a good job, mending things up and using the people from the primary, bringing them into his administration, which was the 2016 to 2020 administration. Trump, there was some turnover, there always is, but of course the media makes screaming sirens every time Trump had a change in his administration, where you never hear anything about the changes in the administration of the Democrat administration.
And one of the biggest mistakes Trump made when he came into office was to be gracious.
Right.
He let a lot of the people remain in office. Right. He didn't go in and fire everybody, which is predominantly what happens when you have a change in leadership, because they don't want to fight what Trump ended up fighting and ultimately being his demise.
That's right.
And all of those forces are still there.
Sure.
I mean, they are still there
and have been built up and strengthened over the past 4 years. So it's going to be even harder to clean them all out now. That's why I think that the first thing going into office, he should say, "Everybody's fired. I'm starting from scratch." Right?
That well, I mean, yeah. If you're because there's not a presidency that takes place where the president doesn't want loyalty to him.
Sure.
And they criticized Trump even for asking for it.
Right. That's
You know,
right.
he was asking Comey, the FBI director, if he was on his side.
Yeah.
You would expect that. You would
Of
expect
course.
the FBI director to support the president that's in office, not
What
stab him in the back, which is exactly what happened.
what CEO of a major corporation wants to bring in, a CFO and a, COO and, all these, C-suite level positions filled with people that hate his guts or her. It's gonna be guts, right? Hate his guts, and want to undermine his. Of course not. Of course he's gonna fill the C-suite with people that are, for lack of a better term, loyal to his agendas, right?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Every CEO operates that way. But Trump does it, who was a CEO, a very successful one, right? Trump does it, and he's a dictator, he's a tyrant, he's demanding loyalty.
It's amazing that they call Trump the dictator, and it's the left that is the dictator.
Right.
You know, that they're the side that wants to take away free speech.
That's right.
They would shut us down right now
Absolutely.
if they could, because we are.
And that's what they were doing with Twitter before Elon bought Twitter and turned it into X. I have no doubt they're still doing it with Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. You go down the list. If the things that came out from Elon buying Twitter and the Twitter files that came out after that were being reported about the FBI, CIA, all these government agencies that were embedded in the operations at Twitter. If somebody doesn't think that it's the exact same thing at the other major social media platforms, then they're just naive to the point of idiocy. Of course. And the thing is, the other social media platforms haven't done anything to clean it up like Elon did at X.
No.
I think he's still got some work to do at X too.
Yes, he does.
I think there's some infiltrators.
He still has some people that are not loyal to him.
Right.
That are still trying to follow the old game plan while still in office underneath his corporation.
Even at places like Rumble, which is, the whole foundational principle at Rumble is free speech, right? So if I wanted to undermine a organization's success because I'm so fundamentally opposed to their core beliefs, their core mission, and I wanted to undermine them, do you think I would submit a resume saying, "Hey, when you hire me, I'm going to come in and mess up your system"?
You mean like a jury? How if you're somebody might lie
to get on the jury
to cause somebody grief by being dishonest.
So yeah, of course there's FBI agents, CIA agents. You go down the list of agencies. Of course they still have people embedded in the operations at X, in the operations at Rumble, in the operations at all the social media platforms. And it's going to be really, really hard, even for somebody like Elon and the people over at Rumble. I don't know their names, but even for people like that want to have a purely neutral system to actually weed those people out. It's going to be really, really hard.
Yes,
and
it's an uphill fight because they had the momentum. This has been what's happening now. Like I've said a million times, nothing's happening by accident. They've been playing the long game. I mean, they've been at this for decades.
Oh, sure.
And it's coming around to a culmination now to where we're at the crux. Right. Either we stop it now or.
And you say, they've been at this for decades.
Yes.
Okay. And think about what you're talking about when you say they've been at this for decades. Social media platforms how old are social media platforms?
Not that
Not
old.
much older than a couple of decades,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so that means that I think it's completely plausible and likely that when Zuckerberg first came out with the earliest versions of Facebook,
I mean, he was still at college and actually
Right,
using
right,
that
right.
for
That
his friends to
there were
network on.
there were people in government that recognized the potential
Sure.
for it and got embedded even at
Early.
that early
Yes.
stage.
Yes. Yes.
And have been doing that ever since, every other social media platform to spin off of that, because they recognize the potential. Not only that, but what about major corporations that want to manipulate the marketing algorithms and stuff? Of course they're putting people in there.
Right.
Of
Well,
course they
and
are.
the thing is now it's a world market.
Right.
It's not so you have the companies that were originally American companies, and now they don't care about America
Right.
because their money comes from the world, not just the United States. And they're destroying and betraying their own country for greed.
For greed. That's it.
Greed.
It's greed. That's why, the Bible says the love of money, not money, the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And so that's that greed. And you'll do anything to make that money, even to the degree of brainwashing children with social media algorithms and social media platforms, brainwashing children, indoctrinating children, sexualizing children, manipulating children in any number of ways for the sake of greed, for the sake of selling your product, for monetizing their minds, basically. And it's the love of money. It's greed. That's at the root of all of it. Why is it that we can't get any honest representation in Washington?
Oh yeah, serious question. Because
Yeah, sure, yeah.
because the lobbies and the money.
The lobbies, that's right. The lobbies and the money. I've talked to people about like fuel cell technology,
Right.
different forms of energy that, the technology exists and could be made affordable for mass market today, to have fuel cell powered vehicles where you change the fuel cell every 10 years or 12 years, right? So you put your fuel cell in your car, drive it for 10 years, the fuel cell wears out, you swap it out for another one. That technology exists today. Why isn't it being pursued? Why is it that it's these batteries with these rare earth minerals that are so dangerous to mine and very, very lucrative to mine? Why is it that we're pushing the technology in that direction to those kind of batteries?
And the technology, I mean, and it doesn't do what they say it's going to do
Right.
either. They claim that, oh yes, it's green, it's not bad for the environment. China does not have a good record historically of environmental practices, and they're the ones that are in charge of.
Right.
They've got all the rare earth metals tied up into them, and you have children mining metals in Congo at the mines, and the positive spin is being put on that for the sake of the environment, and it's not green at all.
And that's just energy policy when it comes to cars and petroleum, and the oil companies have the money to go up there to Washington and put the money in the right hands to say squash any alternative energy research, any alternative energy movements and things, things of that nature, and they're able to squash that with that money. Same thing with the pharmaceutical industries and all the money in the pharmaceutical industries. Why is it that a naturally grown plant that has tremendous medicinal value for things like depression, addiction, chronic pain, all kinds of things, that plant that somebody can grow in their backyard, right? is a Schedule 1 narcotic that is a felony, right? Why is that when the number one cause of death with what? Young to middle-aged males in the country right now?
OD?
The fentanyl overdose.
Right.
Narcotics, right? Do you know why? The pharmaceutical, and that's the number one reason that marijuana is.
Are you is the short version of the question, why do they use synthetic materials instead of the natural plant to create medicines?
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, the reasoning that they will give is because the different batches of crops have different elevations of the chemicals involved, so that you don't have a consistent dose from the plants. But they are making drugs similar
Right.
to the compound, not using the actual compound
Right.
that's derived from the plant. They could refine that just fine, but they give you the logic of no, you
The
can't,
dosage,
right?
right?
Exactly.
Okay. So people who don't know the plant might say, okay, well, okay, dosage matters. You don't want to take, 120 milligrams when you only need 40 milligrams, right? But with that plant, dosage is, kind of irrelevant. You can't. I've never heard of a case anyway. I don't know of a case where somebody has, overdosed on marijuana. It doesn't happen.
Not
Right.
on marijuana.
No,
No.
well, that's what I'm talking about. And
But there are serious consequences for chronic use. I mean, that's the yeah, and may take a puff and die. No, that's
No.
unless it's been laced with fentanyl or
right.
Right.
There are psychological issues that, like you said, with habitual use where,
Right.
And that's the same thing with everything, right?
Right.
There's medicinal use for alcohol. Well, if you abuse it, that's chronic use of alcohol or habitual use of alcohol. It will kill you, right?
Yes.
Or it will make you very dysfunctional.
Yes.
Same thing with, almost anything. But it's not, in my, research of it, I guess, it's not addictive like the other stuff is, right? You use it when I tell you, when I really started looking into it, after my heart issues, I started taking statins, right? That's what the doctor prescribed. I started taking statins for plaque buildup, and
Yes.
and it was causing me to have joint pain in my thumbs. And so I was talking about that one day, and one of the little old ladies at church said, "Oh, I've been trying this for my arthritis pain, and it works really well, better than anything else I've tried." And it was right after the CBDs had
Came
been
out.
legalized, after the Farm Bill. When was
Right.
it? It was the '04 Farm Bill or something like that. But anyway, it legalized a lot of the cannabinoid products that
Right.
don't come from the marijuana plant, comes from the hemp plant,
Right.
not the marijuana plant. So she was using the CBD oil for her joint pain. And I said, well, I'll try it. It's the only thing that I was able to find that made that joint pain go away. And so I started looking into it more.
Right.
The biggest fight against the legalization of those cannabinoid products
It's the pharmaceutical.
the
industry.
pharmaceutical industries. That's right. Because one of the things that they found in the research was that where these cannabinoid products were legalized and people could get them, just go in the store and buy it,
Right.
that the opioid addiction rate was dropping in those places. Well, who makes the most money off of opioid addiction?
China.
Yeah, but specific companies manufacturing in China, right? The pharmaceutical companies, they're making billions and billions a year off of supplying the opioid
Medication.
addiction. Yeah.
Well, the thing, and this has always bothered me. Okay, who takes the medication? Does the government take the medication, or do individuals take the medication? Individuals. So when the government sues a pharmaceutical company how much of that money, of the billions that they get
Right.
from the pharmaceutical industry, makes it to the individuals that are the ones suffering from the addiction of the opiates? Does any
That's what I was going to say. Is the answer zero?
the answer zero? The answer zero.
Yeah.
Yes, and that shows how crooked
That's
the
right.
system is, and
that
then
goes
it's
back,
tolerated.
right, that's right.
It's
And that
tolerated.
goes back to the lobbying, right? The pharmaceutical companies lobby Congress to pass laws that make it harder for people to, you know, I know it's even been made into like an ugly word, self-medicate, right? Well, in some instances, I mean, if you're self-medicating with a tall boy, then that's one thing.
Well,
right?
if it works for
or-
short-term non-chronic
Yeah.
use, right?
If you're self-medicating with a baggie of fentanyl from Jose on the corner, that's a problem, right? But there are things that are legitimate forms of self-medication, and so the reason that so many of them will get your rights taken away, get you charged with a felony,
You mean like Hunter?
yeah, right. Uh, is because of lobbying in Washington. That's it. And it's money. It's the love of money. We elect people to send them to Washington to represent us. They get there, they get the lobbyist money, they see, not only the lobbyist money, but they get the financial advisors say, hey, if you pass this bill right here, your portfolio will, right? So, it's and then they forget all about us. They forget all about the people they're supposed to be representing, and they're just lining their pockets.
Well, we're insignificant little peons.
That's right.
But they don't answer to us.
That would go to jail, like Martha Stewart. That would go to jail if we practice the same investment
practices that they use.
that they do. Yeah, we'd go to jail.
Yes.
Martha Stewart did go to jail.
Yes.
And they
Nancy
did the exact same thing.
Pelosi has done. She's been brilliant in her financial.
I'm telling you.
I mean, I wish that I had the economic insight that she does to make financial decisions about what companies to invest in as they do.
What's the annual salary of U.S. representatives? I don't think it's over. I don't think it's over 200,000.
No,
I think the president of the United States is like 280.
Right. Well, the most highest paid individual that worked for the government was Fauci.
Oh yeah.
And don't get me started.
I'm talking about elected officials. I think Congress is like 160, 140 somewhere. It's in the mid 100 range, right? So how does somebody making 150, just for the sake of argument, 150,000 a year? How does somebody making in the area of $150,000 a year end up a multi-millionaire in 4-6 years that they're there? How does that happen?
They're just smart.
They're just smart. That's right. They're just smart. No, they're greedy, filthy demons that are betraying their office for the sake of money.
They see opportunity and then they lose their way.
That's a fact.
Oh, and it's a shame. One thing that I credit Glenn Beck with is where he was talking to a potential candidate that's planning on going to Washington is a question that Glenn Beck always asks them: how are you going to protect your soul?
Right. I think that's
a legitimate question.
Right. For one, it would let you know whether the person even cares about their soul. I want somebody to be there that is concerned about losing their soul.
Which is the problem of when you have the atheist point of view.
That's right.
You have
you
nothing.
Don't really
you have nothing to answer for.
That's right.
And the only thing that is present is you.
That's right.
And so then you can make up your own rules. I mean, there's if without there being the existence of a God, you don't have to answer to anybody, and you can do whatever your opinion is just as valid as any other person's opinion, so you can do whatever you want.
That's right. That's why, who was it? John Adams that said that the Constitution was written for a moral people, right? If you're going to have a society that is based on the principle of self-governance, well, then
you have to have morals.
That's right. You have to have a society that looks to a higher power for their self-governance, right? So, and I've asked this question so many times. If everybody just, if I could snap my fingers and uh, everybody woke up tomorrow with the golden rule embedded in their psyche so that they had to function in their daily life.
I mean, like you could program a human and put
Exactly.
that in as the primary.
Put that in, right. That they had to function according to the golden rule. What would that do to the world tomorrow? If everybody had that as their foremost thought in everything they did, I will only do things that affect other people in the way that I would want to be affected myself, right? I will only do to others what I want them to do to me. What would that?
You would end up with a liberal utopia.
Is that what it would be?
Yeah, I'm sure it'd be a liberal utopia. I think.
It would be a utopia. I don't know about liberal utopia, but it would definitely be a utopia. But see,
Yeah.
That's what would happen if you implemented biblical morality, right? That's one of the most fundamental principles of biblical morality. Treat people the way that you want to be treated, right? Be straight up with people. I love the proverb that says, "Let your eyes be straight ahead," right? Basically means be straight up. Be a straight up person, right?
Yes.
Be what you present yourself to be. Don't be a hypocrite, right? Jesus said, don't pray like these hypocrites over here. Pray like you mean it, right? So be honest, be straightforward, be upright. Treat people the way that you would want them to treat you. If everybody did that, how would that change the world? But see, we're supposed to have this idea. We're supposed to accept the multiculturalism lie that all cultures are equal. So Christian morality and biblical morality, biblical based culture, we're supposed to believe is on an equal footing with, say, like Islamic culture that says, throw gay people off the roof, or wherever you find a Jew behind a rock, behind a tree, kill them, right? Christianity says somebody strikes you on your right cheek, turn the other to them also, right? If they compel you to go a mile, go two, right? Go the extra mile. That's where that term comes from. Go the extra mile, right?
Right.
So, or the culture that says, if you're dealing with an infidel, someone who doesn't believe like you believe, if you're dealing with an infidel, it's okay to lie to them.
Yeah.
Quran says that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I'm supposed to have the idea that all cultures are equal. We're supposed to respect all. No, I don't respect that culture. Okay, let me go a different direction than the golden rule. What if I could snap my fingers, and when I did, like Thanos, right? Do the snap, give me the infinity gauntlet. I'll take care of stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
If I had the infinity gauntlet, things would be a lot better. If I could snap my fingers and the Islamic ideology disappeared from the minds of men forever, like it never existed, how would that affect the world tomorrow? How would that change the world tomorrow? Would the world be a better place or a worse place?
It'd be a much more peaceful place.
It'd be a much more peaceful place.
Because you wouldn't be trying to further your religion via violence.
That's right.
And the thing, the left suffers from ethnocentrism more than they want to judge everything by their own standards under the incorrect presumption that we're all the same.
Right.
And that is not the case.
Right.
That is not the case. You have entirely different ways of thinking.
Right.
You can't translate some thoughts into a different language.
That's right.
It doesn't work that way. Because there's not necessarily an equivalent word for something in another language. I know that some languages have different words for different love, like mother, son,
right?
Friend. There are these different loves, and all we have in English is just love,
right?
And so things do get lost in translation.
That's right. So we we we've come to a point in our culture where people have completely lost the foundation that made America a great country.
Right.
So that now, where we were a culture that was based in the biblical morality of being straight up, being honest, treating other people the way you want to be treated. I mean, and people say, well, they were slave owners. Don't you know they were slave owners? Well, from the very foundation of the country, they started working to end slavery.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
The United States inherited slavery. The United States didn't invent slavery. They inherited slavery. And the United States was the first country in the world to abolish slavery.
And it was the most deadly war in American history.
To this day.
Stop it.
Right.
To quit. And the reason why
that's
the
because
Bill of Rights doesn't give permission for, I should say, rights to property. The reason why rights to property was left out of the Bill of Rights was because it would be used against slaves.
Right.
These are my property. The Constitution says I have a right to this property, and that's why it wasn't in there as a Bill of Rights. I have the right to property.
Right.
And now we're fighting that because you have a goal, an international goal of wanting to take everybody's property from all of them. You will own nothing and you will be happy.
Right. Eat the bugs, sleep in your pod, and be happy.
That's right. And play your game and do your drugs. Right. That's exactly what they have.
Brave new world, right?
Oh, it's awesome. It's great. I'm really looking forward to taking my fentanyl in my little pod and playing my game. That's what my only purpose in life is to play games, do fentanyl, and when I die, nobody's going to care.
And it makes you wonder, too, is that why the flood of fentanyl across the southern border is being not only allowed, but facilitated? Because they want to bring about this brave new world where everybody sleeps in their pod, eats their bugs, and they're happy.
I believe that's the case. But the thing is that, once again, you have the ethnocentristic problem. You have the people that are trying to engineer that in the West. And then you have the other countries, which we tend to look down and condescend to, which is China, which I definitely have my reasons to condescend to them because they're cutting good kidneys out of the Uyghur Muslims, that they're having concentration camps that the world is ignoring, even though they want to say that China is this great, wonderful place. And then, then you have Russia, which also, they've got no intention to be a suicidal country to their own people. We are the only ones in the West who are actively committing cultural suicide of ourselves.
That's right.
And China and Russia certainly aren't going to lay by while we become helpless and not take advantage of our weakness. That's completely naive train of thought. And and once again, it goes down. The dishonesty is once again what's being discussed. That's the core issue, is the dishonesty that is being tolerated culturally.
Right.
And you have to change it. If you're going to change our culture, that's one of the things that has to change. You have to value truth and honesty. And truth has become such a vague thing that one person's truth is true for them. It's not a universal truth now. No, it's still a universal truth. You ignoring it doesn't change the facts. The facts are still the facts. Perception is not reality. Perception might be delusion.
That's right. So, facts are facts, whether you acknowledge them or not.
That's right.
So, what do you think they're going to do with Joe?
He's gone.
He's gone.
He's you can't come back from. And the thing is, there ought to be universal American anger at the antiquated press for the deception that has been pushed on them for the past 4 years.
I mean, this should be the event that basically burns down the media. I mean, if this is not the event that causes just a universal uprising to say, hey, look, you all have not been telling us the truth about what's going on, and now look at what that has gotten us into, right? it's been building over the past 4 years, especially, and people going more and more to alternative media. I think that's why the polling numbers have changed like they have.
And I think that's one reason why the pressure is now not just for Biden to step down, but to resign, because there are people that do understand the real dangers of the international community, and they know that once everybody knows that Biden is a lame president, they are going to take advantage of those things. So, you might not consider Kamala to be, and I certainly don't consider her to be the best second choice.
No. That's somebody who has failed upward her entire career.
Right. But even then, think about this, that there's still an advantage of her over Biden.
Right.
I mean, she's still.
I think she's coherent.
Yes, that's exactly right. She is coherent. So,
did you hear her Hibonics ad with the lady from BET?
No.
Oh man, you talk about cringe! Wow. You remember when Hillary did it? When Hillary was talking, in the Southern Black.
Oh, when she went to the black church.
Yeah, right. I don't feel in those ways, Ty. Right.
More dishonesty.
If you can imagine it, Kamala was even worse than that. It was.
I hate to make this statement in a public venue, but she literally slept her way
absolutely
to the top. She got to where she is, and she doesn't even. Neither of the parties involved deny that that's exactly. What spurred her political career was an affair with.
That's right. One thing you could say for her is that she's an encouragement to everywhere.
That's a comment that's going to get this.
But am I lying?
No, you're not lying, man.
See how far you can get me in a. Okay, I'll cut it. I hope I remember to cut that out.
Or maybe not. Maybe I should be like the unknown comment. You remember him from the Gong Show? Maybe that's what I should have been doing the whole time in my paper bag when my eyeballs cut out while we have this conversation. I really don't care. I enjoy guns.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got a gun company.
Right.
If I make money with my gun company, that's fine.
Right.
I would like to make money with my gun, but if it doesn't happen, I'm not going to be crushed either.
Right.
You're
not going to resort to dishonesty to make money off of things that
it depends on how much money. I mean, now in what's and how much dishonesty. I mean, there might be
what make me an offer. But yeah, it's amazing, and it makes you wonder: did Joe pick Kamala for job security in the first place? That he picked her knowing that that would secure his spot because no one wants her.
As he declines, but as he knew that, well, I'm not going to be as good in a couple of years as I am now. Who can I put in my camp that will get me some votes, but who's not going to threaten my power in the not too distant future? Right. And she's done pretty well at that. She hasn't challenged his authority yet. Yeah. But at the same time, the circumstances that have occurred are the only way that she can make it to the office of the president.
Right.
And it looks like that might actually occur now, that she might actually be the president. But at least
she has failed up so successfully that she's about to become president of the United States.
Right.
She doesn't win elections. She stumbles into these opportunities just by being,
Well, you're not taking into account the passage of time. I mean, time passes as time passes. Time passes. And that's significant that time passes.
It's like that's pretty similar to another wise person that I heard say something
and once again, that's proof that this is an historical episode right now that we're doing.
That's right.
That's right. We're making history because every second time.
That's right. And what is the thing? We don't want to be encumbered by what has been from what could be.
Yeah,
Right?
the past
I mean,
can
you talk
cover,
about
yeah.
some deep philosophy. Wow. Moving into the future, uncumbered by the past. Okay.
Yeah, let's just forget our past.
Yeah,
It
right.
doesn't. It doesn't
That's
matter.
that's the point, I think.
Yeah.
So, but does that mean that we should forget that the United States used to have slavery?
We can't. We can't forget that. I
What
mean,
do you
that's
think she would say? She's the one who's standing there saying, looking to the future, unencumbered by the past.
past.
So reparations? No, that's how quick would she switch that? Well, now we gotta have reparations for the past before we can move into the future, unencumbered by the past, right? I think I make more sense of it than she would.
Hard, but at least she's not dementia seen and seen.
That's true.
She doesn't have dementia. She's
So
not,
why
so-
not RFK?
Well, something about a portion of his brain being eaten by a tapeworm. Or perhaps the 14 years of admitted heroin
Right.
use.
Why aren't they considering RFK?
Well, they discounted him from the beginning. It was the system, the dishonest system, was set up to where there wasn't an actual challenge to Biden, even though the information was there that said he needed to be.
Right. So you mean a Democrat that agrees with all the Democrat demonic platforms like abortion and all that stuff. I mean, he agrees with all that stuff. He's a Democrat, right?
Yeah.
But he's also honest enough to say there's something wrong with the pharmaceutical industry as it is. So there needs to be some reform there. There's something
There needs to be some reform there.
There's something wrong with the way that viruses are
Being
encountered and
I was
then
thinking viruses being manipulated.
right, and
I mean-
then all of a sudden the pharmaceutical company has this so-called vaccine to fix it.
So
Right?
you mean the vaccine that's not really a vaccine, that doesn't really fix it, it
Right.
doesn't keep you from getting it,
Right.
and actually it doesn't really make you
Right.
stronger and more survivable of when you actually get the virus itself.
Right.
That the whole thing is just to make money at the expense of others and our own actual health.
Right. When you look at his positions, which I think are deplorable, but you look at his positions, where does he diverge from the typical Democrat Party line? That's it. It's he's anti-farmer. He's anti-big pharma.
But
And so
It was
he
only
was
when-
not even ever considered. Now he's running as an independent because he is not in bed with big pharma.
well, there are those who believe that his running takes more from Trump than Biden, but as time passes, I think that it's going to take more from Biden or Kamala than from
Oh,
Trump,
sure.
because as time passes, his policies become more known as more liberal as time goes on.
Or any Democrat that they run with the current platform as it is, he's going to take away from them for sure more than he would Trump, because his platform, anybody that he would be appealing to is not someone that would be voting for Trump anyway, right? So now between two different Democrats that believes that platform, well, I like this one. He seems to be more genuine. If I was going to vote Democrat and then RFK come on the scene and saying the things he's saying, I would say, well, maybe he's the guy, But somebody who votes, I vote Republican. In the primary, I vote for the most conservative Republican I can find that
Right.
lines with my ideology the best. By the time it gets to the election, I usually have to hold my nose and vote for the one but I'm going to vote for the Republican because I can't stand the idea of a Democrat getting elected because they are evil.
Well, it's so dangerous. I mean, what's taking place in our country now it's unfathomably dangerous as I play it out in my mind, the direction things are going, what's happening in the rest of the world, and we are executing our own demise on purpose.
That's right.
That that the globalist agenda does not benefit anybody
Right.
but themselves.
That's right.
That's big me's, little me, big eyes, little me's.
Right.
Um,
Well, I think it's a pretty much a foregone conclusion that Joe's time is up, that he's going to be pulled very soon, I think. They're going to nominate somebody else at the convention next month, and Trump's still going to beat him.
I hope so. I hope so because he's got a whole lot weighing on him. I mean, it's. I've never thought that I would see a point in my lifetime where it was like a Marvel movie. That if this guy gets in, mankind is looking at 1,000 years of darkness. But that's kind of the way it is. If the Democrat candidate gets in and continues the agenda that's being executed, mankind is looking at 1,000 years of darkness.
If the United States is lost, where do people go for freedom?
Yeah.
Maybe Poland. Poland's, I mean, not America, but.
Well, once the United States is gone, who's going to stand against Russia as they reacquire their old satellites?
That's right. The only reason Poland can be Poland is because the United States
is in existence.
Right.
That's right.
So that's a good point. Well, I think we've been going for a pretty good while now, and I just want to end with these words. Even you can be president one day.
I wouldn't have chose that to close.
No? Okay, well, you give the closing.
Oh, well, you too, if you make C's, can be president.
Okay. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.